significant of a mass movement as the abolition movement. Because in the same way that the abolition movement was about freeing human beings from physical oppression, from physical bondage, the disclosure movement should and must become, and I think will become, a movement about freeing people from metaphysical oppression, from metaphysical bondage.
Yes.
And we remain in metaphysical bondage as long as we don't know the true history, the true natural history of our own planet, the origin of life on Mars, the origin of life on Earth, and also the origin of life on Mars, and the fact that Mars is an inhabited planet.
Yes.
And for doing so, as you referenced during our first discussion, during your first podcast with me, I'm essentially experiencing in the 21st century here, what Galileo Galilei experienced in the 16th. I'm in some instances being pilloried. But I would remind you that when he appeared before the Spanish Inquisition in 1631, I don't know the exact Italian, but he said something like "il si promuove" or something like that. He said, I don't know the exact Italian. He said, after he was forced to recant the notion that the Earth goes around the sun, he quietly said under his breath, "Yes, but it moves," meaning that the Earth is not a static object and is not the center of the cosmos. Okay, I'm the same thing. I'm simply saying that there's life on Mars, and people are attacking me as a drug addict, a lunatic, and I'm the opposite of that. I've never been involved with drugs. I very strenuously and studiously became a very well-educated person through my own efforts over many years. And so this is curious that at the threshold of the 21st century, we're finding the fact that I've become a modern Galileo in a positive way as a result of the significance of my discoveries, but I'm also becoming a Galileo-like figure in the way that I'm being attacked. And that's very phobic, and quite frankly, it's very shocking to me. I was apprised of it back in the late 90s in that briefing with the CIA officer, but I really didn't appreciate at that time the depth of the attacks that would result. They've been very petty, very far off the mark, and they really go to the level of character assassination. And yet, look, this is the natural legacy of our solar system. How is that not a good thing for everybody on the planet to know?
I agree. I agree.
And so I'm just going to proceed forward and just bear with this kind of societal fallout that Galileo and Giordano Bruno, and I've even found in my studies that, as I mentioned during the last broadcast, that even Copernicus was pressured by the Catholic Church to shut up. And I'm not going to, because he didn't and Galileo didn't, and we really need to move human society forward. This is fraught with implications. For one thing, because Mars is inhabited, and we haven't even been thinking about that fact, much less discussing it, we have to frame a Mars Protectorate Treaty just to simply do the right thing regarding Mars. We also need to extend the precautionary principle of the cutting edge, so to speak, the state-of-the-art in international environmental law to the rest of the cosmos. Because Earth, for all of its beauty and the rich treasure that it is, it doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a cosmos that also needs to be protected and stewarded in the way that we construct our interactions with the universe, the same way we're now extending concerns about environmental protection of the Earth. So the fact that there's life on Mars really creates the case for the protection of Mars. The fact that there's civilization there is also an important political and diplomatic consideration. We want to do the right thing regarding Mars because we want to be in a cooperative relationship with the Martians and not an adversarial one. So I'm just going to continue to speak out until ultimately we have a presidential announcement, for example, in the United States. I'm very psychic, and I'm starting to see images of an actual press conference where President Obama will invite me up to, let's say, the Roosevelt Room of the White House, and will make this announcement. In other words, that the U.S. government will affirm that its own program of the sort of de minimis exploration of Mars with the rovers has detected this substantial evidence of life on Mars. Even if he doesn't acknowledge the U.S. presence there that has existed there for decades, he'll at least embrace the natural history discoveries that I've been articulating. And I think that'll be an important event. So I'm going to be asking President Obama to do that. And the question is going to continue to be put to him. And I'm hoping, as one of my generational contemporaries, that he does the right thing. And I think that he possesses the intelligence and political acumen to possibly do so. But I am starting to see images of actually, having an official announcement event at the White House. And I think ultimately, as we publish more and more evidence, he's really not going to be able to evade it, because there would have to be a major disinformational program indicating that we're faking our images, and we're not. And in fact, as I mentioned, I'm getting data now from anomalists all over the world that show with clear, cogent, and convincing evidence that Mars is inhabited. Now, the rover programs themselves, boy, I don't know. My guess is that by sending little go-karts up there with cameras on them, you deceive the public that you have personnel there.
Mm.
So that would probably be part of the disinformational ploy of the disinformational purpose or purposes of the overt public space program embodied in Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo in the space shuttle that we now find in the NASA JPL program regarding the rovers. But then again, Mars is another planet, and if you look at, for example, the ESA photograph that I analyzed where we found those 9 monuments in the rule valence of Mars, the area that I'm calling the New Cydonia site, we still have to map Mars and study what's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole planet to explore. So I wouldn't want to besmirch either the satellite-based or the rover-based photographic expeditions, because we are mapping Mars, and that's a very important function. But what we're not letting the public in on is the fact that down there in some of those locations are both Martian humanoids and humanoids from Earth that are already there. But I think we're going to go in baby steps here, and I think the first important political step is simply for the President of the United States to take credit for this discovery, because it was NASA and JPL that took those images, and it was myself and other Mars anomalists who pointed out the obvious evidence in them that Mars is an inhabited planet.
Absolutely, and we have your images in your PDF, some that looks really, really interesting, and we have your testimony about your experiences. We'll see where this goes, obviously, and where the information takes us from here, and we might get other people down the line here to confirm your story as well. But beyond all of the things that we've been talking about here today, then, Andrew, is there anything else that you want to mention to kind of round things up for us here for this time?
Well, I'm wondering if you'd like to do another hour. I mean, I could march through what we've discovered. I mean, we've never really gotten to that. If you'd like to, I could kind of recap the last year of discovery. But if you'd like to close here, I would say that really there's 3, I think, major sort of significant aspects to my account. One is essentially the discovery in natural history that Mars is an inhabited planet. And that needs to simply be known so that people on Earth know the true telling of the natural history of our own solar system. So I can't emphasize that enough. We need to have the best available information about the cosmos that we inhabit. It's our birthright, it's a human right, and it needs to be protected and defended and advanced, because we in fact have been deceived by the large institutions that have developed around the issue of the exploration of space. The second thing I would say is that because Mars has an indigenous ecology and civilization, we need to protect it from ourselves. I'm going to be working with the distinguished exopolitical leader Alfred Lambermont Weber, who was the author of the original work Exopolitics and essentially the founder of exopolitics as a social science discipline. And in that sense, one of our leading space lawyers or philosophers around the area of our relations with off-planet cultures, to promulgate a Mars Protectorate Treaty that we hope we can have passed by the United Nations, so that we have an international consensus about what steps we will take to protect the ecology and the civilization of Mars from impacts by human activities. And by human activities, I mean activities by humans from Earth. Now, in the process of promulgating that, maybe we'll have more revelations about the U.S. presence on Mars, so it may be complicated by any secret treaties that already exist between the U.S. and other world governments and the Martians. But so far, those treaties have not been revealed, so the best available information to us suggests that there's been very little law and policy development vis-a-vis Mars and its ecology and civilization. So that discussion needs to begin. It needs to begin in earnest, and it certainly needs to begin in collaboration by the major spacefaring nations and groups. So presumably that would include the United States, Russia, Japan,